Hey there everybody, this is Z Wink and welcome back to Z Wink University, where today we are going to do a question and answer session. I posted a post to Twitter and asked everybody to ask me questions. So what this interview essentially is me answering all those questions. And up top here we have a list of some 30 questions that we're going to go over. Woo, that's really fun, goes behind my head. And we're going to talk about all these different things. Hopefully we can get through this in about 30 minutes, but it is a lot of questions and I'm going to try to answer them the best that I can in that time period. First question that I got was, tell us about your background and was it in computers or IT and has it helped? So I do have a background in information technology. I started playing with computers when I was 6 years old. I'm about 30 years older than that now. So I was toying around with them, and I've always sort of been in various facets of IT. I like building computers. I like computer gaming when I was a kid. And I got into sort of client-side web development, just learning HTML and JavaScript back when the web was in its infancy, dial-up modems and AOL and all that stuff. So I have a little bit of a background in IT, but, as far as has it helped, I would say what's been the most helpful for bug bounty hunting, web applications in particular, is just knowing some basic HTML and JavaScript. I think that's a great resource to have when that's essentially what you're getting on the client, right, on every website you're looking at. So I think knowing HTML and JavaScript is very helpful in this field, as is being able to recognize the architectures and platforms and things that you're working with. But you don't have to have a background to do that, really. I mean, you can go learn HTML and the basics of JavaScript in no time. And really, we're just looking for injection indicators and being able to read code a little bit to help us find things, right? So it's just, the more you practice, the more you do it, the more familiar you'll get with it. Similarly, the question, is programming knowledge needed or required to be successful? Do you need to have a computer science degree? What I would say to that is, if your computer science degree is actually useful in that when you graduate, you know how to create applications and programs that can do stuff that you want to be able to do, I would say that it would give you a leg up. It's definitely not required. I mean, honestly, if somebody asked me, I would say you don't need to go to college for this field. You don't need to go to a university, because 90% of what you learn in universities are, electives and histories and Englishes and raw mathematics and things like that aren't directly applicable to bug bounty hunting. What you need for bug bounty hunting is practice and experience and understanding vulnerabilities, and new vulnerabilities come out every minute, every hour, every day. And the second you get your degree, it's essentially become stale from that perspective. So I do have degrees, but I don't think they would have helped me in this field at all. Really, I think having one programming language that you're good at, that a scripting language like Python or something, would be very helpful in being able to make your own exploits or do custom tooling or something. But it's not a requirement. I do that very, very rarely. Like, the vast majority of money I've made bug bounty hunting didn't require anything like that. I would say probably 98% of the bugs didn't require a custom Python exploit or something, right? Tell us about your journey from the beginning to now, and stuff like that. So that's a really long explanation, which I'm actually going to do a different video or a different piece on, probably with Bug Crowd actually. But I'll give you the overview, which is I started out in October of 2020, which was, I think, COVID was going good and we were all working from home. The work pace for my main job got a lot slower, so that gave me time to sort of play right on the side and try to get better at these kind of things. And that was when I really got into it. Now, when I first started bug bounty hunting, I was terrible at it. I really was, and I didn't really understand the game. So it's a practice makes perfect kind of thing, right? You need to. I learn by doing, personally. So I'm not out watching YouTube videos about how other people do stuff. I'm more often than not, I'm looking at something and then trying to understand what I could do on it, and then researching it on Google and that sort of thing. So my very first bugs on Bug Crowd were they were with what's now referred to as a VDP, but it was basically a program that rewards points only, and I logged some bugs with them. And once I logged some points only bugs with them, I didn't get any money for it. I started getting private invites, and so my suggestion would be, to get started, because honestly, logging your first bug is the absolute hardest thing that you'll ever do in this field, right? you know, once you log your first, second, third bug, whatever, it's all downhill from there, because you start getting more invites and more opportunities, and you're basically just trying to set yourself apart from the other 100 or 200,000 people that have logged into the platforms by logging that first bug, second bug, third bug, and it gets easier and easier and easier as you log more bugs. That's just the way it works. So I wish I could give you something more optimistic, but I just want to be realistic. Logging that first bug can be really, really hard if you're new to the field. But once you get it, you'll have this huge sense of accomplishment, and know that you've already done a lot more than a lot of people that have logged in and never found the one bug, right, against a valid bug bounty target. Now, I had initially set my goals for, bug bounty hunting to be like $100 a month. And my very first bug bounty reward was from USAA, actually, for $100 for something I found on a search engine. And that was really cool. And then after that, I started, changing my criteria over time. But to not get too far off the question here, I don't do any collaborations. It's not that I wouldn't, I just haven't yet, and the right opportunity hasn't come up. But I'm more than happy to work with other people if we can make it work, right? It can get kind of complicated in private programs. I think everybody has to be in the same program and that sort of stuff. But anyway, I never thought when I started doing this in October of 2020 that it would be as life-changing as it has been, right? I would have never fathomed the amount of money that you could make from bug bounty hunting, just, from the comfort of your home and having fun. It feels a little like a video game, and it's unreal sometimes. What is my motivation day to day? Why do I do it? So first of all, I work in cybersecurity full-time already, right? I'm a full-time web application pen tester, which is something that it's a job that I actually got from bug bounty hunting. One of the targets I was hunting actually offered me a job, and it's a great job. So motivation-wise, my company that hired me fully believes that bug bounty hunting on the side keeps my skills sharp and helps me to be better at my main job, which is protecting them. So in terms of motivation, I do it for training, I do it for education, I do it because it's fun, but I also do it because it pays well, right? So it's to me, it's a little bit like a video game. You're leveling up, you're ranking up, you're getting points, you're getting money. At the same time, you're doing some good in the world, right? You're helping these companies, protect their customer data and get safer and all that good stuff. And that's sort of all the good reasons. I mean, to me, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun. And if it ever starts feeling like work because I do it on the side, I stop. Which is why we're going to this next question. I tried to put these in logical order. Do I ever take breaks? How do I manage frustration? So yeah, I take long breaks. I sometimes take weeks or even months off. I know last year I took like the entire month of April and May off, I think, or something like that. I kind of work a little bit like a tidal wave, and then I log a whole bunch of bugs and I get a whole bunch of money, and then I sort of feel like, well, I don't really need to do that for a little while, and I go out and I play, right? I go fishing or boating or chilling or whatever people do in their spare time that's not playing on computers. And I absolutely believe that breaks are important, because if you don't take a break and you set unrealistic goals for yourself and you go through periods where you're not finding any bugs or something, you'll get frustrated, and frustration equals stress, stress equals stress, and you're not going to find as many bugs if you're stressed out, probably. I don't think working under pressure in this field is conducive to finding the most stuff. Maybe it is for some people, but not for me. I like to work when I'm chilled out, and that's just me. Tools that I usually use, I did a whole Bug Bounty 101 series on tooling. I do work from Windows, as you can see back here in the background. Windows. I hack from Windows because I'm an old school Windows user. I mean, I started out on DOS, and then Windows 3 or whatever on top of that, Windows 3.1, Windows, what came after that, 95, 98, 2000, ME, maybe I got this backwards. I don't know. I've been on Windows since the beginning, and I just like it. I grew up with it. Is it the most secure operating system? I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not worried about people hacking my hacking box. That's not a concern for me. I'm using this thing for pen testing. It's convenient. It's easy. So I hack from Windows. I like Firefox as a browser. That's the one that is the least annoying. Google Chrome drives me nuts. I hate it. So I hack from on Windows with Firefox using Burp Suite Pro, professional version. It's got add-ons that are useful. And when I need additional things, I'll sometimes download tooling from GitHub that people have made that automate some things that make it easier, like AEM Scanner or WP Scan. These little script kiddie tools that scan specific architectures or platforms for you, right? Because it's just easier. And when I'm doing mobile testing, I'll use the Knox emulator, NOx emulator, and get man in the middle on the emulator, and then forward all that traffic over to Burp Suite. So that's kind of the toolkit in general that I'm using. Now I do have VirtualBox with a Kali Linux image on it, but man, I'm not gonna lie, I've only had to use that thing like 2 times for something. One involved SMB out of band stuff with the responder, and the other had to do with cracking some hashes. But it's not something that I need to do for bug bounty hunting a lot, right? It's just we don't have to go that far a lot of the time to where we need to use the really invasive tooling. How do I keep my skills up to date and learn new things? What resources do I use, and how do I understand a target? Well, I tried to loop these together, and people ask these questions a lot. I am a learn by doer. I learn by doing. So for me, just continuing to participate in bug bounty and constantly being inquisitive or asking questions about everything I see is the way that I learn things. And how do I ask questions? I don't ask people usually. I ask the search engines, right? Because people are inherently gushy. They're going to already post everything that they know to GitHub and to various forums on the internet. So I just look at something on the screen and say, I don't know what that is, and I'll paste the URL into Google, or I'll paste the the response header, or whatever it is that I'm not familiar with, and I go start reading about it. And you keep pulling on threads until you learn new things. When I was first starting out, as far as resources that I used to stay up to date, Portswigger Web Security Academy, I'm going to give them credit because that was what ultimately got me started. And Twitter, being connected to the right people on Twitter is really good. These guys that are doing really well and also choose to post little tidbits about how they're doing what they're doing. I think a lot of us we don't tell anybody anything because it's really easy to do. But I'm trying to be a little bit helpful and teach people the way. And I think if you follow some of these talented people on Twitter that are willing to share some of their knowledge, I think enough of it may rub off to be useful. As far as understanding a target, it's the same thing, right? When you first approach a target, and I think I did a video on this with Pinterest here just a few days ago, you need to go do a little research on them, right? Use Google, understand what it is they're doing, how they work. And as far as a particular endpoint, if I don't know what the endpoint's doing, you don't always know. There could be obfuscated random named parameters that do stuff and things, and you just don't know. If a programmer makes a variable called Z that you see, just the letter Z, you don't know what that does unless you can find some context for it in the code or files. You don't always know what something does. Do I participate in capture the flags? I don't actually. I do not like staged hacking events. I never have. These little, it's not for me. I did do a series of hack the box lab tests for Synac Red Team that I passed and got an invite to Synac Red Team, and that's literally the only experience I had ever had with capture the flag or hack the box. And to me, my personal opinion, those environments are more screwed up than anything you'll ever see in the real world. And that's just from my 1.5 years of experience. What I'll say is that I have never found an environment that is a bug bounty target that is as jacked up as one of those hack the lab boxes. So they're very easy using the scanners because they're geared toward, I swear they're geared toward script kiddie scanning tools. So, like when you get a capture the flag target and you right click, press scan, it's like, I found 4 SQL injections. You're like, oh, that's great. You don't find that in the wild very much. Not nearly as often or as easy as capture the flag makes it look. But the difference is the capture the flags make you go further. They make you take a SQL injection that normally you would have stopped at in bug bounty and said, okay, I got it to sleep for 30 seconds or whatever, you're done, or I got the host name back, I'm done. Well, they make you go through and use like blind Boolean based logic to get passwords out, and then take those passwords and log into some SMTP server, some file server, whatever. And then you got to pivot and you got to escalate, and you got to pivot and you got to escalate. And I mean, it's more like real world black hat hacking ish than it is geared toward bug bounty, in my opinion, which is great. It just doesn't do anything for me for bug bounty. Okay. So is bug bounty smart work or hard work? I would say it's both. That's a really good question. I personally, because I do this on the side, try to work smarter than harder at bug bounty. But I think you definitely need to do both, especially when you're getting started. I mean, if you think about it, hard work meaning I'm spending a lot of time and effort, but I'm not putting any intelligence behind it. You're probably not going to find much. You're just spinning your wheels. So you need to add a little smart to your hard to be able to find bugs. I think I try to find the easiest bugs first, working smart. So I start with broken authentication and access control issues. IDORs. Like APIs and endpoints where they completely forgot to check for authentication. These sorts of things I always check for first, and I work my way down, these easy bugs, easy, cross-site scripting injections, cross-site request forgeries because they're super easy to spot, these sorts of things. And, I don't often go for the really deep, complex injections. I can leave that for other people. So, again, to this question, what to focus on if you only have, that was fun. What to focus on if you only have 3 to 5 hours per week to hunt? I would say focus on broken access controls and authentication, IDORs, and maybe some easy cross-site scripting. Because those are all kind of easy to spot. That would just be my opinion. Rabbit holes that I avoid, I just touched on. What rabbit holes do I avoid? I don't go down the super complex injection rabbit holes. I just don't. I've even found, like Java deserialization issues before, and I honestly just didn't feel like spending the time to craft an RC payload in Java. I'm not a Java guy, and the language is annoying. So I actually stopped at a P2 there and was just like, hey, here's some, really insecure deserialization that's going to lead to remote code execution. I'm just too stupid or lazy to make the payload. So please look at it on your end. And they're like, oh, that's great. Thanks. It's a P2. And then they chime back like a week later or something. Was like, yeah, we did get RC on this. And I'm like, okay, good for you. That's great. It doesn't do anything for me to spend, days or whatever trying to find the perfect payload to get RCE on an endpoint just to say I got RCE. I think remote code execution is great for people that get all wiggy about it. For me, I'd rather go find 5 or 6 or 10 more IDORs in the time it would have taken me to do that for an extra $1,000 or $2,000. And, I end up making 10 or 12 or more with the IDORs than I would have trying to escalate that to an RCE. That is just me. Same thing with cross-site scripting. I'm not going to go real deep on DOM-based XSS where you've got to have 15,000 slashes and brackets and wiggy little things and the perfect places in order to get the code execution. I don't care that much. There's people out there that are good at that and can do it. If I can't get cross-site scripting from an injection vector in about 15 or 20 minutes, I literally move on. Like, it's just not that entertaining to me. How do you get to the top 100 to 500 fast? My gosh, how do you use a computer would be a better question. There we go. All right. So you don't is the short answer unless you're like one of these automation experts that have found some loophole or bug that you can scan like 300,000 subdomains for and log bugs against like hundreds of different programs. I think Nogley and some of these other guys did that, right? And they got rocketed to the top really fast. But for the rest of us that aren't using really cool automation techniques and stuff like that, you're going to have to just over time log bugs and rank up. I mean, BugCrowd uses a cumulative points-based formula, right? So I just kind of want to see the Windows logo for a second. A cumulative points-based formula. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means you've got hackers that have been out there for 6 or 7 years already, racking up points. I think Today Is New, bless his heart, has like 37,000 points, which is multiple factors higher than the number of points I've got. I think I'm getting close to 5,000 points now, right, on that platform. And it takes a while to get them, right? A P1's 40 points, a P2's 20 points, a P3's 10 points, and a P4's 4. And duplicates get you almost nothing unless they're P1s or P2s, or do get you nothing unless they're P1s or P2s. And it just takes time. Back in the day, I think those guys were getting points for the VDP programs or whatever those used to be called, and it might have been easier to get points back then. But now it's pretty rough, right? To get points, you've got to be logging valid bugs that pay money, I think. And all that to say, don't have that mindset. I think if you have the fast mindset, you're already going about it wrong. Okay, I think you need to have like the how do I do the best that I can do and not compare myself to everybody else in the world mindset. And that's kind of how I did, because if you're constantly looking up and reading Twitter and be like, well, that guy just logged 10 P1s and that guy just found 0 days and made $200,000 and that guy just made $1 million. I mean, you can't compare yourself to others when you're first starting out. You need to compare yourself to yourself. And that's why it's important to set realistic goals for yourself and make sure that all you're doing is trying to get better within your bubble, so to speak. And real quick, I want to answer this next question. I'm going to skip over the why do I hunt on bug crowd and come back to it real quick. Oh my gosh. I'm just trying to highlight things, man. I give up. I'm about to cover up my head. Do I ever feel pressured to make a certain amount? This is what I was trying to get at. And so we're talking about fast, and top 100 or whatnot. You can feel pressured, right? Fast and feel pressured go into the same quadrant or bubble, and you can feel pressured if you put unrealistic goals on yourself. Okay, so when I first started out, my initial goal was to make $100 a month. It was on the side. I was like, $100 a month, that's cool. I can go play a couple rounds of golf or bowling or buy some fish stuff or whatever, and that was good. And then I made $100, and I was like, well, let me up it to $500 a month because I'm starting to get better at this, and bug money's rolling in. And then I eventually made it $1,000 a month, and then I made it $10,000 a month. But to me, what I like to do is have an achievable goal that I can exceed. That makes me feel more relaxed. I think this white background's wigging out the computer or something. Yeah, it makes me feel more relaxed. So $10,000 a month is an incredible amount of money. But it's at my current level that I've managed to work myself to. It's an achievable goal, and so if I make $30 or $40 or $50 or $60,000 in a month instead of $10,000, what I think in my head is, well, that's the next 6 months of my $10,000 quota right there, right? So now I can chill. I'm not going to keep making my goal higher and higher and higher because I don't need more money than that. That just gets greedy. So as far as feeling pressured to make a certain amount of money in a certain period of time, I think you just need to set goals that make sense for you that are achievable. Don't set unrealistic goals. If you've never made $100 bug bounty hunting, your goal should not be more than $100 a month bug bounty hunting. You shouldn't be setting unrealistic goals of top 100 or 500 if you're just getting started out. Right now, you just need to start figuring out how to log bugs. Set realistic baby step level goals for yourself. I think it's very important to do that. Why do I hunt mostly on bug crowd? Bug crowd has been great to me from the beginning. Why did I pick bug crowd over all the other platforms initially? I honestly can't remember. I love the color orange. I'm not gonna say that was the only reason, but I saw, I guess, an advertisement or something and was like, hey, bug crowd, that looks really cool. And then I saw the blog on the MVP and the awards and the points, and I like the idea of being able to try to achieve MVP and ranking up, and I knew it was a little bit smaller than HackerOne, at least in the beginning, and I like the idea of starting out on maybe something a little smaller or newer rather than going on the platform that's been around forever. So, and I honestly don't know the histories of the two companies very well, but I do know that Bug Crowd's been great since I started with them, and it's been really fun to put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, right? Because as I said, I'm doing this on the side, and it's a resume builder, right? When you're ranking up, so being able to put on your resume that you're top 100 on a platform with however many people, 300,000 or whatever user accounts, is good. And I keep ranking up, I keep going up, and I got my job from Bug Crowd that I have right now. It's a great remote job. And I really just think that the opportunities are there. And people ask me all the time, why don't I hunt on SRT or Integrity or HackerOne? And I'm not saying I'm never going to do that, but what I'm saying is that right now, I like to not spread my bugs amongst 3 or 4 different platforms. I like all the credit to go into one account, which is my Z-Wink account on Bug Crowd, right? It's getting me points on that account. I'm ranking up. I'm kind of getting all the credit there. And one day, if I have more time and whatever, I might spread out to other platforms. It's just that right now, they keep me busy. I mean, they do. And I get cool private invites and little events and things like that I wouldn't get probably starting out on a new platform somewhere else. So I think it's really cool to sort of have a little bit of loyalty and dedication to the platform that got you where you're at, I have the Bug Crowd platform to thank a lot for where I am today. Already answered that one. How do you control anxiety when starting on heavily tested targets? All right, so say you're going out on a public bug bounty hunting spree, and you first click on the target like Pinterest we were talking about, and it's got 400 bugs reported or something. A lot of bugs, and a lot of people have looked at it, and you're like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna find anything, man. It's been hacked so much. You shouldn't think like that. What you should think like is this program's been around a long time. They've had a lot of good hackers look at them, but people miss stuff, and every day new stuff is created. So, there's always the potential you're going to find something that somebody else missed on these programs. I know for a fact that when I was making that Pinterest video the other day, I found something, and I looked at it from a different perspective than everybody else, and that's the value of crowdsourced security, right? I think a different way and work a different way than other people do, and they work a different way than me. And when we all come together on a target, we find more stuff, and that's what's so cool about crowdsourced security. If you ever get to the point out there where you think you're the bomb and you're finding everything that's out there on a target, you're wrong. You just are, because there's always somebody that thinks differently, hacks differently, and has a different skill set than you. So it's important to realize that, and I think control that anxiety when going into a new target. Is like, okay, I might be the person that brings the new thing to this target, that finds something that nobody else has found before. Given a bunch of choices, how do I pick a target? I don't know why I read that backwards. How do I pick a target given a bunch of choices? What I would say is, you get to the point where you've got 5 or 10 private invites and only so much free time. I think I did a short blurb on this in one of the videos. But what I would do is normally look at the response time and the payout range are two of my number one kind of priority now. I just had an aneurysm. I'm gonna look at the payout range and the payout range and the scope and the response time. And the reason for that is that I get more engaged with a program if they respond quickly. If they respond quickly, I stay engaged. I'm getting money. They're getting bugs. I'm getting money. They're getting bugs. It feels like I'm doing something useful, right? If they don't respond fast, I feel like the bugs are going into a black hole and they don't care. It also means that likely you're going to run into more duplicates if it's not a new target, because they don't respond fast, which means they probably don't fix fast. As far as the payout ranges go, if you can get a P1 that's $6,000 versus a P1 that's $1,500, you should probably go for the $6,000 P1s first. And I mean, that to me has been a good way of doing things. Like a program that I started on the other day, had $6,000 P1s, and I logged a few of them, and while I didn't agree with the triage levels on a couple, they knocked them down to P2s. It still paid $4,000 a pop, so it's like higher paying targets are better than lower paying targets if you're doing this for, any sort of financial income. So obviously I think that makes sense. And targets that put a bunch of things out of scope, as far as type of vulnerabilities that can be sought after, I would say I don't go after them very much. I don't like programs that mark everything out of scope and know about serious security issues and say they don't care. It's known, we're not going to do anything about it. I'm like, whatever. I just move on to the next target. Those are programs I'm not interested in working with because they don't really care about security. I ran into one the other day that said cross-site scripting and SVG uploads is known, and something to the effect of we don't care. I'm like, oh, you're okay with anybody being able to achieve stored XSS on your, and it was on their domains, not a third-party domain. I'm like, you know what? That's the type of program that doesn't really care about security. I'm going to move on. So that's just the way I kind of think and work on those things. How do I select specific things for further investigation after basic reconnaissance? What this person was driving at was, okay, so we've just gotten a new target like Pinterest again we started on, and we've scanned all the subdomains, and now we know all the subdomains that are responsive, and I've got a list of like 300 subdomains in front of me that have 200 or 400 or 404 or 500 response codes that indicate they're at least running, right? Which and how do I go for further investigation? Well, oh wow, like bling bling teeth, yeah. Okay, anyway, I just saw that my camera's wigging out. What I do is, generally speaking, I look at everything, right? Because any one of those 300 subdomains could be the subdomain where you find the goodies. But I mean, you need to look at them all. I normally start with the ones that look interesting to me. So I guess the question was, what looks interesting to me? Well, I try to start with high value stuff. So if I see a domain that indicates it might be an admin console, right? Or some sort of dashboard or thing that retrieves customer data or something, I'm always looking for the things that bring back the customer data or the sensitive data or the PII or whatever first. And then I start going to the weirder maybe looking things after that. But in general, on a private program, my thought process is, I want to start from the authenticated, high priority criticality stuff, and work my way out from there. So what I would do is I would log in to the My Account area. I would look at all the functions that change username and change password and change email and retrieve customer data and set customer data. I look at all that first on private programs, and I work my way out to all the weird stuff. But on the big public programs, I assume most of that's been looked at pretty thoroughly. And I actually start at the weird stuff and work my way back in. And that's just sort of the way I think, because I do make some assumption that with the big public programs that stuff has been hammered to death. Not that I won't necessarily find anything new, it's just less likely. So I start at the really weird things that maybe are harder to find, right? When do I decide to move on for a target, and what do I do if I don't find anything for hours or days at a time? Well, the second part sort of answers the first part. If I don't find anything for long periods of time, I do move on, and that's just because I've got a lot of targets that I can be potentially working on, and if I haven't found anything for hours or days, they probably have a pretty good security posture, or my skill sets don't cater well to whatever type of vulnerabilities are present on that environment. Either way, again, return on investment, with investment being time and return being money, or points, I would prefer to have a higher ROI on a target where I'm more effective. And some companies just do security well. They do everything right. They have the right, headers and the right auth checks, and, all the CSRF anti-forgery tokens, and, they got 4 layers of WAFs, and the list goes on, what I mean? It's just that they just do things well, and you can sometimes just eyeball on a target that it's going to be really, really tough, when you get to it, and you learn kind of the things to assess real quick to gauge the difficulty of a target. And I can normally tell within about 15 minutes how hard a target's going to be to find things. But for me, I have no problem moving on to a new target when I don't find anything for hours or days, just because why not, right? It depends though, if I'm trying to achieve some personal goal, I have to find a bug with this program, I just want to do it, that's just me, I might dig in a little deeper, right? It's some program that I know is hardened, but I just want to challenge myself, well, I might go longer on it. How do I deal with bad triages or non-responsive triagers or programs? Okay, well, you don't have a lot of control in this field. Okay, once you log a bug, it was doing it again. Yeah. Kind of pulling that. Once you log a bug, you no longer really have any control over it. You send it out, and it's up to the triagers or application security engineers or program personnel to decide it's an issue or not decide it's an issue. And you can challenge it, but they can ignore you, right? They can completely ignore you. They can completely not respond for 6 months at a time if they feel like it. You have very little control in this field, so it's important to I think have a contact with the bug bounty programs you're working at, where you can deal with these sort of things. If you can get one, sometimes you can message them through Twitter, or sometimes they have a Slack channel or something where you can reach out to them. But on a case-by-case basis, it's good to build these people relationships with the bug bounty platforms, because you can at least sort of have a good relationship with the platform. You won't necessarily ever meet or be able to talk to anybody with the program owners, but you can get in close with the platform, which can help deal with some of these missed triage issues or programs that aren't responsive. I know that's kind of an equivocal answer. What I would say is you just deal with it in your own way. It's one of the many downsides to this field, but it's one of the major downsides of this field, right? Is you log an issue and you're pretty positive it's an issue. I did have one with a company recently where I logged 3 issues that were marked not applicable, and through a series of meetings and challenges and communications, they ended up triaging back to positive to high rated firmware issues, and I got paid a load of money for that. So, if you're positive something is an issue, don't give up on it. Just find the right avenue to try to appeal it, which is not usually yelling in a comment after the issue's been marked NA, because they don't usually read those. How much caution to use when using tools to prevent denial of service? You need to know how to recognize denial of service, right? If the server begins responding slowly or more slowly as you're scanning it, and or starts responding with gateway timeout responses like 502 response codes or something like that, you're definitely scanning it too fast. you need to slow it down, right? So whatever you do, make sure you're throttling your scanners, be it burp or whatever else you're using, to be a much slower speed, so as not to be causing a detriment to the server that you're scanning. Okay, I mean, some programs allow you to try to hunt denial of service, and if you hit 100 requests a second or something and it starts not responding, well, you need to probably log that as an issue, because they probably don't have any denial of service protection whatsoever. What is my methodology for testing WordPress? That's a random one. I use WP Scan, I think, like most people do. And it's got a bunch of switches. You can enumerate the add-ons and plugins and all that kind of stuff. And I don't go real deep on WordPress. I mean, most of the vulnerabilities in WordPress are found in the add-ons. I'm not looking for 0 days in add-ons, though I could see that being a very lucrative field because so many people use WordPress. But if I run that scanner and it pops out and says that there's some sort of RCE or SQL injection on the unauthenticated side of WordPress, then I would go after it. But if it requires like admin plus or something auth, I don't go any further on that. But WP Scan is a good tool for that. And then last and probably least is somebody asking about how I manage my taxes. What I'll say to that is that bug bounty can definitely make you enough money to set you in completely different tax brackets. The United States taxes every dollar you make, foreign and domestic if you're a U.S. citizen and living in the U.S. So I have to report every single dollar I make bug bounty hunting, right? So it's managed correctly is how I would answer that question. What I would say to you though is if you're one of those young spring chickens out there and you can live in any country in the world you want to and become a citizen of any country you want to, I think you should look into, if you know you're going to do this long term, you should look into countries that don't tax income. And they exist, and they're often kind of tropical in nature. So you might be able to keep a lot more of your money than if you are a U.S. citizen or whatever. But I mean, happy to do my part, and it is what it is, right? So hopefully this has been a good question and answer session, everybody. I tried to just answer these kind of briefly so we could get through this in a decent period of time. I think we're at 36 minutes, and again, I want to do more of these, so I'll occasionally post things on Twitter, so reply back to it, let me know what it is you want to know, and we'll keep doing these question and answer series from time to time. So again, thanks for tuning in. I think I'm going to do another video here shortly on some stuff related to auth bypass that people keep asking me, because I don't think I did a good job at communicating what actually an auth bypass is. I think people were looking for them but don't understand exactly which type you can get paid for. So I'm going to go into a little more detail on that in the next video, I believe. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Subscribe for updates. Take it easy.